Elections Committee. Zahra Qassam is also part of Elections Committee, but she's not here with us today. And today we're here for the by-election of VP Finance, which means that we held our main elections. We have one position left remaining. We've opened up the elections once again just for the VP Finance position because that's the only one that was missing. And now, alhamdulillah, we have two candidates going forward. So the way it'll work today, inshallah, is we're going to have the two candidates give their candidate statements, whether that's what they have written or what they choose to present to us today. The candidate statements will be available on the ballot, inshallah, so you don't have to worry about analyzing everything now. And then we're going to proceed, inshallah, to ask each of the candidates questions. The candidate statements will be 2 minutes long. The answers to the questions to the candidates, inshallah, will be about a minute and a half maximum. We'll start off with questions from the elections committee. You are free to ask questions, inshallah. The link has been added in the chat. And we can link it again as well for anyone who comes in a bit later. Feel free to send in your questions or raise your hand, inshallah, once we call out for public questions. And then you can ask, the questions will be directed to both candidates, inshallah. Once we're finished that Q&A, the election forum will be closed, and we will be opening up the elections for VP Finance. And so we'll be sending out the link to the ballot, both in this chat and to the general membership of the MSA. And you will have until the end of Thursday, inshallah, May 7, to vote. Please make sure that you are a general member of the MSA before voting so that your vote is valid, inshallah. And then after that, we will do the rest of our work, inshallah, as elections committee. We will validate the votes and we'll announce, and then we'll be announcing, inshallah, who wins. And as always, we'll remember, inshallah, started off with renewing our intentions, inshallah, to be able to find someone who will be serving the MSA and the Muslim community in this capacity, inshallah. And whoever is not serving in this capacity, then inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us all to find places to serve the community. Okay, so we're going to get started with the first candidate on my screen. I hope he's here. Yes, he's here. Okay. So we'll be keeping track of time, inshallah. We might go like this if you have 10 seconds left, just to give you a heads up so that we don't cut you off right away. And whenever you're ready, you can take the floor, inshallah.
Sure, quick question. How long do I have to present the statement?
2 minutes.
All right. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'een. And so, first and foremost, my name is Wajid Zaman, and currently I'm a master's student at the Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy. And so, being a master's student, like I have definitely a couple of years of experience on hand, whether it's working with both UFT MSA as outreach director, planning IW last year, or several roles in UOttawa MSA, which does include, a financial role within the IW there, as well as being the finance exec for our own Dawah Club on campus. Long story of how that got founded. And I've also helped to plan and lead the development of other conferences, case competitions, events, etc. And so, essentially, and within my financial roles, I have worked as both a financial analyst as within like different government roles on the professional level, and as I mentioned before, I have worked as a executive within clubs as well. And this not only forced me to like do things like keep track of reimbursements, check financial flows that are going in and out to make sure rules were being followed, but even go as far as to like create preventative measures to ensure that, again, like we avoid disaster, but ensure that we do have income that is coming in. One of the examples here I list is when I was head of Ottawa's Model UN conference, and we were in like a very horrible financial state essentially, where there was lots of debt, lots of unhealthy spending, and we were freshly out of a financial scandal. And so from there, I managed to pull the club out of that situation and leave it with the most income that it has ever seen. You can ask me more questions about this later on, just so I don't go over time explaining this example. But essentially, like how I've seen with what I've seen with finance is that the best approach to it is that it has to be interactive. The community has to be or especially those who are involved in certain events, need to like be in the know, and we need to be ensure that there is interaction, there is like engagement throughout the process, and not a lot of like mystery when it comes to like how finances are being done, and how I want to ensure that there is some transparency and that people are well aware of how MSA finances work and how it
10
impacts
seconds
their work.
left.
Okay, so okay, so we're going to do lots of financial reporting, lots of fundraising, sponsorships, ensure lots of communication with directors and trainings to ensure that they are all on track. And we're going to hold more events on Islamic finance and economics, and even tax season will help you with that as well. All right, that's the end of my little spiel.
Jazakumullahu khairan. I know 2 minutes isn't a lot of time to to go with. Okay, next up, inshallah. Oop, Shahir, you have 2 minutes. Start when you can. Bismillah.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, everyone. This past year, alhamdulillah, I served as the VP Finance for the MSA. And during my term, I really focused on like addressing a lot of the key structural challenges that the our finances had. For example, one of our main accomplishments this year was like streamlining the reimbursement process because over the last couple of years, our reimbursement process was check-based, and it was very difficult for a lot of community members to receive their reimbursements. So, alhamdulillah, by making our reimbursements digital, we significantly improved that process, and now it's very easy for the entire team. And also another thing that we did was we introduced like dedicated bank accounts for both the MSA and the OSP because in the last couple of years there wasn't really dedicated accounts for either of the two. And honestly, our finances were like very confusing, very jumbled up, and also it wasn't the best for financial transparency. So, alhamdulillah, separating both the accounts, did was like a very great thing that we did this year, alhamdulillah. And in addition to that, alhamdulillah, this year we were we successfully secured funding for all our events, and we raised a substantial amount of charity through our Jummah sales. Um, and so this year was the main reasons why I want to run again for BP Finance is because there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to make sure that our finances are seamless and as organized as possible. And this year, like a big issue that I saw was the Jummah, alhamdulillah, this year through the Jummah food sales, the MSA has raise a significant amount of money, not only for external fundraisers that we've done, but also for the MSA. And alhamdulillah, now it's a significant source of revenue for us. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that the MSA is
10 seconds.
significant, like decently self-sufficient, and Ajuma food sales will help us a lot with that. And I really want to make sure that the Juma sales are as organized as possible. So in order to do that, I want to introduce a role of a fundraising director who will be responsible for organizing these sales, making sure that everything is planned and coordinated and everything is seamless, and so that we maximize the revenue we make from this. And I also continue to improve all of our financial processes. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Jazakumullahu khairan to you both. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to do like specific questions. Both of you guys will be sorry, both of you guys will be answering these questions. We'll just tag team it. So first, we'll just take turns. Sorry, I keep getting messages in this chat. Ahmed, I am getting messages from the chat, so you can ask these questions, inshallah. Each candidate's gonna get a minute and a half, and then you'll just take turns.
Inshallah. So, Jazakallah for your statements. So let's ask some questions. We'll start with Shahir first, since you went second for the statement. First question I want to ask. So the VP finance role requires handling an amana involving student funds, sponsorship, money, grants, etc. So what does financial accountability mean to you from both a professional and Islamic perspective?
It definitely means a lot to me, especially now that I've gained experience managing the MSA's funds, and it's very important that especially when you're VP Finance, it's because it's not my money or it's not the money of some sort of business or something. This is the money of the community, and like we were in our team, we remind ourselves again and again, this is an amana and this is not our money. And there's a significant responsibility that comes with this role, managing all of this money, getting, when we, through all of our fundraisers, every single time we gain revenue, that is basically the money for the community. And it's very important that is why, even this year, as I mentioned before, one of my main focuses was to make sure that our finances are as transparent and as possible. For example, like me separating both of our the MSA and the OSP's accounts was to make sure that the money never gets because obviously, as I said before, the money that we receive is in a manner. Let's say the money that we receive for the OSP should never get mixed up with the money for the MSA and vice versa. So that is why like taking steps such as that, show that like I do really care about having being responsible for this money. And I will continue to improve on that. Like our team this year, the council team has prepared so many different trackers, so many different for example, just trackers to track our invoices, our reimbursements, our payments, all that kind of stuff just makes everything transparent. And for example, even at the end of the year, the financial reports that we send out, those are also proof that we make sure that we are as transparent and as professional as possible in doing that. And yeah, that's my answer.
Jazakallah khair. I'll just repeat the question for Wajid. So the VP finance role requires handling an amana involving student funds, sponsorship money, and grants. So what does financial accountability mean to you from both a professional and Islamic perspective?
So the first and most important thing, especially like what I've seen, like look at politics and other club organizations, the biggest thing that, makes people go off track is again the lack of taqwa, I would say, even within a lot of like MSAs. It's like we don't remember that again, like, having that like awareness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is ultimately watching us and He is aware of like all of our actions and intentions. That is again like the biggest thing, especially when it comes to finances and managing it for the Muslim community is the most important thing. That everything we're doing here, like with the finances we receive, are for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it forces us to always ask the question as for whether or not, whether the spending we're doing or whether we're not doing it, is it there to benefit the community for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is it not doing so? So again, like when we think of Allah and what He would also think of our actions, that is the most important thing on the Islamic end. Professionally, where I have seen like effective finances work is ensuring that there is proper scrutiny as well as like proper engagement, not just from like the executive members, but also from those who are impacted by certain finances. Like for example, if I'm working with IAW or if I'm working with like the events team, I want them to know like, okay, where is the income coming from? What is their how much are they able to spend? And I want to be there essentially like at each and every step of the way to ensure that, there are for sure going to be changes as events are coming along. And so just to like be aware of those changes, ask their questions whenever need be, that's the most important thing. And as Shahir also mentioned too, like with like the trackers,
That's
I do oh yeah, want to create a larger dashboard too, just so that execs as well as members can reference it and so that they can ask the necessary questions whenever they come along so that we are held accountable. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Um, One of you mentioned like IW, and with that, like Ramadan is another big one. So what would your plan be to sort of secure funding during those busy times when you have to, consider something like Ramadan, feeding people for iftars 30 days for a month? So wanted to ask you guys about that. What's your plans for that? We'll start with Wajid.
Absolutely. So, other than the other great ideas that have been mentioned, like Jumu'ah sales as well as like other fundraising that we do on a weekly basis. The most important thing, especially when I was in previous financial positions, was making a lot of like deals with like local businesses or nonprofits within the area to provide that funding and provide them with publicity. And along with, fundraising director, Shahir mentioned, very good idea. I do want to create a sponsorship director position too, just so that throughout the year they are looking for extra sponsors. So it's not just an external to handle that. It's so that they're able it's so that we can have like someone else who just specialize in this role to be able to find people for IW as well as Ramadan and provide them with the necessary benefits that do come along with it. So that is essentially my plan to ensure that there are sponsorships to start early, start with a new position, and then ensure that again we make those deals with those businesses. And even if there are days we want to say like, hey, if you want to dedicate 10% of your profits to iftar meals or to IW, that's a deal and promotion that we can partner up with you with. And so it's creating partnerships early on is the most important thing that I would see.
And so Shahir, same thing. How would you handle the busy schedules of Ramadan, IEW, when you need to secure funding for a short period of time?
Okay, so I'd also definitely agree with Wajid. Like starting off early is very important. That's definitely something I've realized over this last year. Like starting off early is very, very important. But so coming back to like how I would fundraise for Ramadan, like the first thing is alhamdulillah, our campus U of T has like a really good um fund funding opportunities for us. For example, like one of the biggest fundraising opportunities we have is, for example, like through UTSU. Alhamdulillah, UTSU has been very, very generous over the last couple of years, and they help sponsor a significant amount of the iftars. So I've definitely reached out to them and basically continue the collaboration that's been going on over the last 2 years. Reach out to them, collaborate with them on a lot of iftars. We also have like a lot of, for example, the Student Initiative Fund. Uh, their tier two funding, for example, the $3,000. I think I'll definitely be able to, you know, I would want to reply to those. But there are also other fundraising opportunities on campus. Make use of those. And then we also have a really, really good list of partners that we've like organizations that we've collaborated with in the past. For example, HCI and NZF are really, really close partners that we have, and alhamdulillah, they've been very generous with their support. So I would definitely reach out to them. And in the past, even this Ramadan, they've been very open to helping us, by sponsoring some iftars. So I've reached out to them. But
10 seconds.
another really important thing is like finally, I would also reach out to the community. The community at U of T, like especially the Muslim community, is incredibly generous. And once they find out that we are giving out free food every single day to 100, 130 people on campus, people are very willing to donate to support this good cause. So I would appeal to the community, work with the comms team to have like a good marketing campaign, and also just use the Juma fundraisers because they were very, very effective this year, and I would like to continue using them next year as well, inshallah.
Right, Jazakallah khair. Just try to keep my screen on so that you can see when I go like this for 10 seconds. I just want to keep it fair so we have the same amount of time per candidate as we did for the previous election, or not previous election, but the main election part. Inshallah. So the next question I have, so for Shahir, imagine the MSA is facing a budget shortfall midway through the year, and multiple directors are requesting funding for important initiatives. How would you prioritize where resources go while maintaining fairness and organizational goals?
Okay, so the first thing I would do is obviously we have like a proper process for that. We receive um, event proposals in advance of these events. So I would go through all of these the event proposals and also look at the amount of budget they have remaining. And then once I receive that, my main thing is like we have a lot of events that are like flagship MSA events. For example, the Islam Awareness Week, Ramadan, we have the formal dinners. Those are events that the MSA is known for. So obviously my like a priority would go towards those events, making sure that the events that we're known for, like those big events, we make sure that those events are taken care of. But also in the same way like I did this year, like I would make sure that even the smaller initiatives are taken care of. Like obviously I would try if the MSA does not have is falling behind on funds, my first thought would be to like how can I secure those funds instead of saying no to the directors because they've obviously really worked really hard on those proposals. So I would try and reach out to these our partner organizations like HCI, NZF, UNAPEAL, see if they would like to collaborate and work on something. If that doesn't work, there are also on-campus funding opportunities. And we also, as I mentioned before, like the Juma sales are a great source of revenue for us. So I would try to make use of that revenue to help us with that. And but I also have a thing where like I really want to say this again that the money that the MSA has is an amana. So I will also make sure that I go through the event proposals and see if there are any unnecessary purchases being made. I mean, my goal is to make sure that the event goes through and we serve the community in the best possible manner, but we also make sure that our spending is not too extravagant. And we ensure that we um, keep that in mind, inshallah. But yeah, thank you.
And Wajid, same question. So imagine the MSA is facing a budget shortfall midway through the year. Multiple directors are requesting funding or for important initiatives. How would you prioritize where resources go while maintaining fairness and organizational goals?
But as you mentioned, just to like not repeat any other points, like the most important thing is again to prioritize, not just what came first, but again what is going to have the most benefit for the MSA overall. But even within like the quote unquote important initiatives, the most important thing is actually to like help see where again you can like reduce the spending and you can like see where we can like essentially cut not even like just unnecessary purchases, but also suggest ways that they can spend like their money in more effective ways just so that we can save and like use those funds towards better use those funds towards the smaller initiatives that do come up along the way. So again, it's like the most important thing here is to again be honest with those directors and tell them like this is the situation that we're facing right now, but we want to review finances with you, not finances with you maybe over a 30-minute 1 hour meeting, and let's see where we can not just cut things but also just improve our spending overall. And again, the second thing that I do want to mention is that for those smaller events, like again, we want to have them, but at the same time, like again, constantly evaluate, work with them, reevaluate, and then see if like there can be other revenue sources, especially like for example, like if it's a smaller event, maybe we can start charging, $1 or $2 tickets to offset some costs there. So maybe that event itself could bring in revenue in another way. That's something that I would want to discuss with the directors who are holding those events.
Right, that look clear. We'll do the question, like a question from the form responses. So Wajid, first this time, how do you wish to ride off the momentum generated this year and continue to innovate and maximize community involvement? Sort of the emphasis of this question is on what sort of new ideas do you have? Yeah.
Absolutely. And so just to like continue momentum from this year, I think the biggest thing would be to that's not even like financially related, is just to have like just make the more Muslim community more aware of Islamic finances and economics in general, just because I know this is a topic of huge interest, but we don't really have as many avenues to actually learn about it properly. So I do want to hold those like large workshops on whether it's budgeting, investing, economics as a whole, just so that the community can gain some more knowledge from that, inshallah. And even if we want to, help out students, for example, during tax season, for example, there's probably plenty of U of T alumni that we can help bring in and who'd be fairly knowledgeable on this subject. Another very innovative thing is just because there is, from again, just coming from a director perspective, there is a lot of confusion on like, what resources we might have allocated to us. And like, again, how do we like establish a relationship with finance? Because I feel like, again, like sometimes you go through your executive, they go to finance. So like, how do we streamline that whole relationship? And so again, finance has an entire team from what I know. And so we'd want them to be in contact with directors constantly to ensure that, and we should have shared spreadsheets to know that, to know how spending and priorities are changing constantly. So again, more hands-on work with directors is something that I see as important to make sure that, again, no one is confused and that everyone can be on the same page. Another thing is, those financial reports, not just to executives, but to members as well, just to know what is the situation going on. And so, like, again, people can adjust their expectations accordingly and also suggest new ideas along the way. So 10 seconds, got it. And again, just like more communication is again the most important important thing. And like again, wherever we can like find new sponsorships or find wherever there are shortfalls, that's especially in events like IAW, which has had plenty of shortfalls. That is something I do want to work on directly with directors to fix those issues before they become even bigger issues.
Jazakallah khair. And Shahir, how do you wish to ride off the momentum generated this year? Continue to innovate and maximize the community involvement, emphasis on new ideas.
Hmm. So, I would definitely like to, like, first of all, continue the momentum, as you mentioned. Alhamdulillah. This year, as I mentioned before in my statement, like we've made significant improvements in like the structure of our finances. But I would like to continue that. As I mentioned before, I would also like to like work with the accounts team to make sure that our trackers are even more efficient and they like maybe even work on more stuff. But I also I really liked Wajid's point of having um workshops and stuff where people can learn about like Islamic finance. I really like that idea. That's definitely something I would also like to work on. And we have worked on stuff like that in the past. Like for example, with the internal team, we've also worked on like the card workshops and stuff. And I would definitely like to have more of those. And definitely collaborate more with like the internal team to try and organize halaqat and something like that, like on like healthy business practices, like all that kind of stuff with the internal team, inshallah. Um, but I would also like, as I mentioned, like a lot of my focus is going to be on how do I make sure that Jummah is as organized and as efficient as possible. So that also, inshallah, once I have as I mentioned, I would like to have a dedicated fundraising director, and I would definitely like to work with them on making sure that, we our Jummahs, our Jummah sales are as organized and as are just a good environment for like people to come and purchase stuff and help them MSA, but also support the students. So yeah, that's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Just give me a quick moment here while just confirm one thing. So just stand by if you guys don't mind for a minute or two. Sorry for the delay there, just dealing with something behind the scenes. Let's continue with the next question. So this one's also actually, is there anyone in the call who wants to ask any questions before I move on to the ones I have? If you have one, you can raise your hand. I'll give 20 seconds here. Yeah, Maria. Yeah. Oh, you're muted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't able to find the raising hand function. Um, I guess my question to both of you is recognizing that you're taking on an executive role, you are role models within the MSA, and a lot of directors and execs will look up to you, especially since you're overseeing the finances, which is a very sensitive role. What would you say is your biggest weakness or hindrance or challenge when it comes to this role, and how do you plan on mitigating that and working on it, inshallah?
Whoever went last, I think it was Shahir, right? The last question. You can go first, yeah. Thanks.
I'm going first. Is it me?
Yeah, you went last on on the previous question, right? Sorry, I couldn't remember.
I did, yes. Okay.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, you go ahead.
Right. So I would say over the last year, I did like one of the biggest the challenges that I faced, and I would also call it like a weakness was that you know this role can be like being VP finance is like it's a very demanding role, and it's a role in which like it's very you always have something to do, and there's always it requires a lot of your time and attention. And last year, especially like going from a director to VP finance is a significant jump. And especially like you just don't realize how demanding it can be and how much you need to be willing to give like sacrifice from your academics and your extracurriculars to support this role. So last year, like because jumping from straight from a director to VP finance, like there were so many things that were so unexpected for me, and so many things where I really had to like um, sacrifice a lot on like my in terms of my academics and my extracurriculars. But uh, but this year, I feel like once you get a hang of like what the job actually is and what you're supposed to do, because like this year I was able to like for this entire year, for the 12 months, I was able to experience what being VP finance is like and what you have to do on a day-to-day basis and a monthly basis, what things you're supposed to look forward to, for example, all those major events, what the finances look like when the deadlines are for each of the funding applications, and when you're supposed to do what, how do you manage the team and all that. Now that I have an understanding of how all of that
10
works,
seconds.
now I feel like now I am much able to um, you know, give out my like organize my schedule in a more efficient way where I can anticipate exactly what's going to happen in the future, so I can work on that and make sure that nothing is compromised, and I give uh, this position the time it's due. And yeah, thank you.
Okay. Why did you need Maria to repeat the question?
I think I got it from
Okay.
here. So yeah, when it comes to like weaknesses, I mean, thankfully having held like done many larger events in the past and like a lot of multi-step initiatives, like thankfully like with organization, that's something that a skill that I've kind of mastered, especially with like putting everything into my calendar, organizing my dates and deadlines and whatnot. And again, with taking less courses next year, that is going to facilitate, going to make things a lot easier just when it comes to actually tending to MSA duties. But I guess the biggest thing that I'm personally trying to improve on is like how do I go beyond like just the foundations and how can I, actually think about ways that I can better like serve the MSA or how can I like go above and beyond essentially? Like I know she has mentioned things like, grants and spending deadlines, but what are, but one thing I do want to do next year is like actually track what sort of events, what sort of proposals are going on, actually see like where we can find more opportunities for funding as well as like more chances for like or like even more provide more resources to those directors so that they can better manage their spending overall. So it's again just like thinking beyond the basics and thinking just beyond the job description of how I can really make a bigger impact for these directors and ensure that things are a lot more smooth for them throughout the year. Something that I've been working on. It's something that I do want to provide next year, inshallah.
Okay. And next one also from the form, so submitted by the audience. So finance directors often report feeling detached from the rest of the MSA operations. How will you make sure they are better integrated into the MSA team? Majid, go ahead.
Absolutely. So with the plan I've proposed, like which is one, like more direct communication with directors and execs providing more support overall is one of the key, pillars of how I want to be way less detached and actually be a lot more involved in like the nitty-gritty of the event and initiative planning processes, and even like those financial reports and taking those questions from MSA members, especially during ADMs, is something that I also want to do more of. And moreover, just like holding more events throughout the year, as I mentioned with the workshops, is another way to like really get involved in the event planning process and meet more members of the MSA, just so that and answer more questions like that they have like along the way too. So again, it's not more so about like us being detached, but the onus is on like us as a financial team to like get out there, be involved more with the community, and it's something that I would want to encourage my team to do as well. It's like, whenever there is more chances to volunteer, please go out there because again, what you do for the MSA is more than just your job description essentially. So again, it's like taking those steps within the financial role to be in communication with everyone else, holding events, and actually like being present wherever possible essentially is the way that we do not feel detached in the future.
Shahir, finance directors often report feeling detached from the rest of the MSA operations. How will you make sure they're better integrated into the MSA team?
So just to clarify, when you say finance directors, you're including accounts and corporate relations, right?
I'm not sure because the question's from the audience, so just take it as you want to.
Okay, so I'm going to assume they're talking about the finance team in general, which includes both corporate relations and accounts. In that case, I would say like, especially for corporate relations, it's very, very important to be familiar with and also to interact with the teams of the events that they're trying to get sponsorships for. Um, because the corporate relations actors, like when they're reaching out to these sponsors, these organizations, they need to know the event. Like they need to have like a lot of knowledge about the event so they can pitch the event correctly um, to these organizations. And that is something that I did try and emphasize this year with the corporate relations teams. But in next year, I would definitely emphasize this even more. That it's very important that before you reach out to any organization, you reach out to any potential sponsor, you have like even if it's a short meeting, have a meeting with the team that's organizing that event and try to understand what that event actually is, what they're trying to do, what their goals are, and um, yeah, to be in communication with them, know their event inside and out, and also be the corporate relations team should also act like a sort of a bridge between the sponsor and the events team because it's very important for both teams to communicate properly in order to just make sure that the everything goes smoothly. Because when you look for a sponsorship, like the sponsor has expectations from you, so yeah, in that case, it's very, very important for them to know. And also, I'd say in the case of accounts, like even though accounts is more on the admin side of things, but
Ten
even for
seconds.
accounts, I would say I would also hmm, make sure that while preparing statements in particular, like obviously during bookkeeping, there's not much to do in terms of interaction with other directorships. But when you're preparing statements, I would also encourage them to, communicate and be in the same group chats and stuff and try to make sense of the data that you're compiling and not have to go through me every time. So yeah, thank you.
Great. Jazakallah khair. So Danya, go ahead.
Okay, so we had a bit of a technical issue on the background, which now just results in, alhamdulillah, one more candidate. We have Tanya Rahman. She's going to be giving a 2-minute or her 2-minute candidate statement now, and then we're going to be asking the same questions that we just asked the two other candidates. For the two other candidates, you can now breathe for a bit. She'll be doing what you guys just did, inshallah. And then if there's any more questions, we'll address those, and then we'll hopefully conclude for the night, inshallah. Just because of the, again, very last minute technical difficulties, her candidate state, and yeah, it's just technical difficulties, inshallah. Her candidate statement's not going to be made available yet, but it will be made available tonight through the ballot. We're going to just delay opening the ballot by a couple hours, and then inshallah we're gonna include her candidate statement on there as well. So Tanya, when you are ready, go ahead and start, inshallah.
Alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Tanya, for introducing me. Can you hear me okay? Can
Yes,
yeah?
and your
Okay.
time is running, so go.
Yes.
Okay. So, salam everyone. I'm Tanya, and some of you might already know me because I'm part of the TMV. A little bit about me and me handling finances. At University of Toronto, I stay at University College Residence. That's what I'm part of. And I was also past year treasurer for McCall House. So I did collect funds and then handle the finances for the house. Prior to that, I have a diploma in office and finance management, and I have worked at a startup tech company for over a year. And as you know, with the tech company, nothing stops. You get calls from CTO, CFO, CEO constantly. There is no day and night. So I worked constantly for more than 60, 70 hours a week. Other than that, for my vision for this role is focusing on three things. First is the past. Second is the present. The third is the future. From the other candidates, I'm hearing a lot, like the current VP, I'm hearing more of, okay, keeping the present momentum going. For me, it would be, like I said, the first point, past, like taking from other VP of finances. I talked with Zohal, another past VP of finance for MSA, maybe whatever Shahir did. So I will be taking from them, including the last VP of finance and all the ones that came before us, what they did good, what they did bad, what can be improved. Secondly, whatever we are doing well, we need to keep that momentum going. And thirdly, I feel like there is currently lacking in alumni relationship and corporate relationship at the MSA, especially for the finance section that we're not tapping into. So I'll be focusing on the future as well. So this will be my three things. So I've gained a lot of skills from working in the past. And right now, inshallah, through this opportunity, I want to put that and serve the Muslim students community. Because for me also,
10 seconds.
for me, it's personal in the sense that this is a lot of sadaqah, like this is a lot of good we're doing. And in this role, whoever is in this role has the opportunity that all of this is going through their hand and reaching the people who need it the most. So that's another extremely personal reason that I want to be part of the MSA community and be involved in the community. Thank you.
Jazakallah khairan. So like Tanya mentioned, now we'll ask the same questions that we already asked the other two candidates. Firstly, so the VP finance role requires handling an amana involving student funds, sponsorship money, grants, etc. What does financial accountability mean to you from both a professional and Islamic perspective? And just to keep an eye on me when I go like this, that means 10 seconds. Inshallah.
Okay. So it means a lot. Like financial transparency, accuracy is extremely important. And in the sense, so there are two things in a non-Islamic point of view, even in Western world. Okay, this position is very unique in the sense that there is math involved in it. Cash goes in, cash goes out. There is no option of anything else being trickled down. It just boils up to how well the person in this position is managing it, and what are the plans in position to manage that finance. So is that box that this person in this position is handling. And in an Islamic point of view, of course, like the other candidates mentioned, it's amana. And like I mentioned in my statement as well, this is a lot of sadaqah. So whoever is handling that, all of this cash is reaching the people who need it through them. So alhamdulillah, it's a great role for anyone, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Next question. So imagine the MSA is facing a budget shortfall midway through the year, and multiple directors are requesting funding for important initiatives. How would you prioritize where resources go while maintaining fairness and organizational goals?
So a little bit context to this question is, first of all, MSA has certain core events. One thing to mitigate this problem is planning, like pre-planning. So when over the summer year, during the fall semester starts, I'll be reviewing all the budget and manage funding for the core events for the MSA. During Ramadan is a time where we need funding for iftars, and IAW is one. Our farewell dinner is one. Our welcome dinner is one. TMV is one. So for those core things, we need to prioritize them and set the budget. And if we are in the moment saying, okay, we went over budget, we can tap into the corporate relationships, maybe alumni relationship. That's something like I will really push for when I am there, and try to secure more funding through the through the other avenues we already have. And then of course, other than the budget, I guess MSA would definitely have other funds. So yeah.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. You kind of answered. Oh, sorry. You kind of answered this in your question just now, but I'll just ask it because we asked the other candidates as well. So when busy times like Ramadan, IEW, where you need a lot of funding for a short amount of time, what's your plan for that?
So again, like pre-planning is the key. And like I said, again, my past, present, future thing, like whoever has supported MSA events in the past that we constantly get, like they are attached to the MSA, they're like our go-to. So definitely reach out to them. And then, like I said, I'll be pushing for new corporate relationships and alumni relationships so that we can maybe secure some new avenues of funding, and then planning for the future so that we can learn from that and avoid this type of situation in the future. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. The next question I asked them was from the form. So how do you wish to ride off the momentum generated this year and continue to innovate and maximize community involvement with an emphasis on new ideas?
To answer this, I would say, like I said, like to look at what has been done well in the past. And then I personally feel the couple of spots that are like lacking in the structural organization at the moment. So yeah, the OSP program has done a phenomenal job this year. So I'll probably review the financial documents and the files. Like, okay, this has been done well. What did the team do to do that well? And try to do the same things to generate the same effect. Sometimes it's not possible. That's where creativity comes in. Okay, you sold Chachu's bowl. If you add something else, maybe okay, you're getting more or you're getting less. Like, so trying to being creative is key here. Like up until what MSA is so far, it's a lot of creative ideas from so many people in the past. So holding on to it, trying to repeat the process to have the same effect. If it doesn't go our way, we try new things with the team.
The next question came from Arya. So if you could go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I'll try to say it word for word. So as you know, taking on an executive role is a huge amana, and on top of that, you're also responsible for finances, so it's quite sensitive, and a lot of community members, council members, and executives look up to you, and lean on to you for decision making. So reflecting on that, what would you say would be a big weakness of yours or challenge or hindrance when it comes to executing this role well, and how do you plan on working on it?
Thanks, Maria, for the question. My weakness, I have experienced it before, like I mentioned when I was working. I worked at a startup tech company, and I was the only person after the CFO who handled all of these finances. So I overworked at one point, and I forgot to take care of myself. And then I had to rely on my friends and family to remind me that, okay, you need to take care of self. And I was sick for a little bit. So I think I sometimes forget my own self when I'm too busy. So, and then I rely on my friends, family, and my team members to kind of remind me, okay, to get me back on track. So I think that's one weakness I have.
Okay. Finance directors often report feeling detached from the rest of the MSA operations. How will you make sure that they are better integrated into the MSA team?
In my opinion, finance directors or sorry, can you repeat the question again? Finance directors, is that what you said?
Yeah, so it's from the form. So finance directors often report feeling detached, detached is in quotation marks, from the rest of the MSA operations. How will you make sure they are better integrated into the MSA team?
So finance team in general, I feel like it's one team that is kind of related to every other team in the MSA. Because when you're planning events, like it has to like money is involved in everything. It's a department that's connected to everything else because we like fundraising and other events, like we need the cash, the funds for everything. So in a way, structurally, if we think about it, finance is related to every other department in MSA. So I guess if the directors are feeling detached, as the VP of finance, their role should be checking in with them, maybe encourage them to attend events. So I can think of types of detachment here. One, they're personally not attending events, they're not communicating with each other. And I feel like since the time of COVID, that has happened a lot, things shifting online, people are feeling more detached from everyone else. So I would definitely push for more in-person event. Like last semester, there was an event for plant potting, book club. All of these are really good things. I feel like the community members are coming to it and participating in it. I went there myself and I really enjoyed there. And the conversation you have, the connections you make. So I would push for in-person events and meeting in person with the team.
All right. It seems like we covered everything. Danya, do you have any questions for the candidates?
I do not. And I think that wraps up perfectly our time, inshallah. Okay, so again, just in terms of timeline, what we'll be doing, inshallah, is we'll be releasing the ballot. We're just gonna make a couple tweaks. We're gonna be releasing the ballot tonight, inshallah. What that means is you'll see it on the MSA socials and you'll see it on you'll see it emailed, inshallah, to your inboxes as long as you're a general member. If you don't know if you are a general member or not, please, or if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to the elections committee. We are not as much of a black box as might appear. Our email is elections@uftmsa.com. Again, just make sure that you are a general member before voting to ensure that your vote is valid, inshallah. And yeah, and just keep an eye out, inshallah, for the ballot. All the candidate statements will be on the ballot. This recording will be made available, inshallah. And let us know if you have any questions. Jazakallah khairan to all the candidates for participating. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all your efforts, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all the efforts of the folks here to make whatever they deem to be the right decision, inshallah.